What's good? We back, Motor City Sports, talking the building. Y'all know what it is. It's your boy CJ Goodfellas speaking on Ameer, Abdullah, and Theo, Reddick. Are either one of these guys worth keeping? And a lot of people are torn on this decision. If I had to pick between either one, I'd definitely pick Theo Reddick. He has the better vision. They both are elite athletes, and we talking about straight line speed. I think Reddick is a little bit slower amongst 40 times, but they both been in the league sometimes. When you get banged up and get older, you tend to get slower. But they both are more quicker than fast. But both are great in the flats, great on Texas routes. Even Theo Reddick can even play the slot exclusively and still make a living in the NFL. But I'm one of the people that thinks Ameer Abdullah should be let go or traded if possible. I definitely think he needs a fresh start, and I never thought him to be a 3-down running back. Now, you take a running back in the second round, like Martin Mayhew did a few years ago with Abdullah. Even if he's not a 3-down back, you want him to be, to be able to be utilized, even as a utility weapon or something like that. And you want to have a main running back. The Lions haven't had a main running back in quite some time, and he definitely wasn't the answer. Too small, too slow in straight line. He was quick, couldn't hold on to the ball, too fragile. He just never really fitted what the Lions need. The Lions never had this great, capable offensive line where Ameer Abdullah can do his Warwick Dunn, Brian Westbrook type of thing behind the line, Darren Sproles thing. He couldn't. For one, his vision is awful, in this offense. Now, I think he has good vision when he was in college, and maybe somewhere else he would have been able to flourish, behind the offensive line. But Detroit, it just wasn't him. I'm not ready completely to say this dude is a completely bust. I think he can go somewhere else and maybe do some good work, in my opinion. But I think in Detroit, he's done here. He's definitely done here. I think he definitely needs to move on and get a fresh start. And, it is what it is. The Arizona Cardinals was going to pick him. The Lions snatched him up. And then Arizona later gets David Johnson in the draft, and it's all she wrote. And Theo Reddick, he has better runs than Ameer Abdullah overall this season. When he was on and getting handed off the ball, he's definitely a big threat in the flats and the passing game. And like I said, he can make a living in the slot. But as well with him, I just think it's time to move on. I think it's time to move on. The Lions love hanging on to guys, past their expiration date. He's still drinking spoiled milk 2-3 weeks later. And then, the fourth week, then they want to, get rid of him when they should have been moved on. That's the Lions for you. They should have truly been moved on or truly move on from these guys this year and just revamp the running game. Maybe keep Tion Green. I think that's the only one that's worth keeping. Bringing on new running backs, because no matter how you scheme it, how you change the offensive lineman you brought up, both of these guys are not capable running backs in Detroit. Maybe it's just, something we doing wrong here, or maybe it just don't fit. They don't fit the bill here. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that you were wrong. But it is something wrong, admitting when you was wrong, too long. Waiting too long and waiting way down the line to admit that you made a mistake. And the Lions are very notorious for that, Didn't want to trade Ndamukong Suh, but everybody knew that he was potentially leaving because you couldn't get the contract done, Calvin Johnson, knowing that he had the pinched nerve and he was declining and how he was feeling, I'm pretty sure somebody in that locker room knew Calvin Johnson was feeling some type of way about this Detroit Lions organization. When you could have traded and got something for him, like a Roy Williams type of deal they got with him back in the day, they didn't do it. And they doing it again with these running backs, and guess who they doing it with as well? They doing it with Golden Tate as well. We see the decline of Golden Tate, game. We see only 300-yard games this year. We seen a bunch of drops, some fumbles, running behind the first down marker. Remember, he gave up, the year before last, and you can see it. When you can get something for him, or you can read him up. The Lions more likely to read him up and then be stuck with a disgruntled athlete. Once he got his money, he goes back to being lax. But back to the topic, I think it's time to move on from both of these guys. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, but it hasn't been working. Both guys have been with the team more than 2 or 3 years now, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. It's insanity. Trying to do the same thing with the same shit in place over and over and over again. The Lions are not, Lions put money in the offensive line. They did it with the line before they put the money into it, and it didn't work. It's time to move on. It's time to bring some fresh faces in, all fresh faces. Let's want to keep Tion Green, then I bring 3 more running backs in. No more keeping Zenner, no more keeping Abdullah, no more keeping Reddick. If you can trade and get some for them, you do it. You just start over. If they go somewhere else and do their thing, well, it's just the coaching in your scheme that didn't work. You need to look at your coaching staff. And I understand they got new coaching staff coming in or whatever it may be, offensive run coordinator, new offensive line coach and all this stuff. But, sometimes you got to change the players, man, and switch it up. And I think it's time to move on from both. It might not be the most popular opinion out there, but I seen it too long where the Lions hold on to guys and think it's going to work, and it never pans out. And you could have been got under their contract or didn't have to pay them, and they could have moved on. And some Lions do go on to make noise in other cities and other teams. And that's the nature of the beast. Maybe it just wasn't meant to work out in Detroit, and maybe they just found a better fit somewhere else. But for sure, it's time for Abdullah to leave. No doubt about it. But Reddick, I can see if they kept him, but I think it's time to move on from him as well. But he's a good running back. We gone.